Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond Life Paranormal Podcast. I'm your host, Russell Reynolds, and we got a good show tonight. We got a great guest with us tonight. Hello, Jeanette. Welcome in. Hello to everyone watching. Before we introduce our guest, hey, Val. Welcome in. Before we introduce our guest, this is your chance to get your last minute tickets for Mortuary Manor. It is next weekend. So there will not be a podcast Friday night and maybe not Sunday night, depending on how tired we are when we get back Sunday from Ohio. That being said, get your last minute tickets. Last I heard, there was only 8 left. So get your VIP tickets to come and investigate with my dad and I, or get your general admission. And you're there all night with all of us. So that being said, come on out. And I thank everybody who purchased tickets to come out and investigate with us, especially VIP tickets. We're not going to go crazy plugging events because it is late in Ireland for my guest tonight. So we're not going to keep him backstage too long. So without further ado, my guest is an author. He does some energy clearing and energy work. Great guest. I was emailed by a promoter about him, and we decided to bring him on the show and let him talk about his book tonight. Hey, Ambry, welcome in. And without further ado, we're not going to keep him backstage. We'll bring him on if StreamYard wants to work right tonight. My guest tonight is Tony Christie, author, energy clearer, and he's coming to us live from Ireland tonight. Hey, Tony, welcome in.
Hey,
Welcome
Russell. Hello. All good. Hello, everyone. Yeah, good to be here. Good to be here. Yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning here, but hey, that's a good time to be doing this kind of show, you know?
Oh, yeah. The paranormal shows are always good late at night.
Yeah.
And so tell my guests a little bit about yourself, how you got started into the work that you do.
Yeah. The book that's coming out, my next book coming out is called Death, You've Got to Love It. So I was contemplating my death for the last 15 years. And every time I went to write a book, I have another book out about labyrinths. And every time I went to write, see what book was next to write, I was always being told, write the death book. And I must say, it didn't originally sit comfortably with me. So it took me a lot of research and investigating and looking into all of that. You know, I've been working with the labyrinths. If people are familiar with labyrinths, mainly as walking meditations. So I kind of came across those. My wife had a deck of angel cards, if you're familiar with that, you know, and she asked me to pick one time, and it was called Melchizedek's Labyrinth. And then I just got interested, built one in the garden, started walking it. People started asking me about it. So I built one made one in the back garden, and then people asked me to teach them about it. So I ended up doing a deck of oracle cards based on the labyrinth, where each part of the labyrinth is some meaning or significance for you in your life. So, and then I found I was working in a 9-to-5 job that I had to leave. I could do it, but it didn't do it for me. So I turned more. I started doing energy healing and working on myself, and then working with other people. Found I'm very sensitive. So when I'm working with someone, it doesn't matter where they are. It can be in the US or Saudi Arabia. It doesn't matter. I can feel what they're feeling, you know. So I found that you might be able to relate to this. I found I'm quite sensitive, and didn't realize that most of what I was feeling, much of my life, half of it wasn't my own at all. It was other people's feelings and energies I was picking up. So let's see. I also, after I gave up that job, I was shown access to information, how to use the labyrinth on one-to-one healings with people. So I train people in how to do that now. I think trained 50 or 60 people worldwide in that. So, is there more? There probably is, if I can think of it. I'm aware of many of my past lives. I'm aware of some of my future lives, and I'm aware of some of my lives beyond this realm. So, and I'm able to tap into them. I don't know how that is. Sometimes, you know, when we have, are they abilities or what? I just, seem to know some things that, that normally wouldn't be known, for want of a better word. Oh yes, and you mentioned I do energy clearing or space clearing of houses and property, and check in to see if if there are entities there, if there's curses on the land or black magic or vortices or portals. And usually it's when people are having issues with their house, that
Right.
they will get in touch with me for issues for different reasons. Sometimes there is certainly paranormal activity, and other times it's just things aren't flowing for them, so that they give me a call, and we'll go to the house. Now, if can do this work from a distance, it's kind of like tapping into the matrix or something. I'm not sure 100% how it works, but I just know it works because the feedback
Right.
I receive from people is very positive. So that's a very brief. Is that a brief introduction? Or feel free.
Yeah, that works.
Feel free to delve deeper into any of that. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and today in Ireland is 1st of May. It's Bealtaine. It's ancient Celtic festival where there used to be lots of fires around the country and bonfires in the time, and it's when the veil is thin. So the elementals, the fairies, and other activity. Even people traditionally used to put yellow flowers in front of their door to keep the bad fairies out. So, so the fairies are often in Ireland are referred to as the good folk, or the small people, or they're kind of treated with a bit of reverence, and you don't interfere with them. Actually, there's a wonderful story about 20 years ago in Ireland. There was a new motorway being built, a highway. I have to use the right terminology here for the people listening. But there was a fairy tree. There's a particular type of tree, it's a white thorn tree, that blossoms around this time of the year. But there was a fairy tree right in the middle of the route for the motorway. And a lot of the construction workers, the guys who drive the diggers and the big land clearing equipment, they won't touch the fairy tree. So none of them would touch the fairy tree. So the motorway had to be moved about a few hundred feet to one side. And the tree is still there. It's right on the side of the motorway, So it's well known in Ireland at this stage, But people weren't going to disturb the fairies. It bring you bad luck. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that in the Irish tradition out there in Ireland from like my grandfather, because of my great grandmother coming from Ireland, and
right. Yeah.
She believed in all that as well.
Yeah. Oh, there's a belief in it. All right. I have fairies in my back garden. They're nice fairies, and you can, when you tune in, you can get a sense of them, or you can see the land, the trees and bushes, or the ground. It's just different feeling to it, It's a lot more vibrant where you have a family of fairies living, So. But you could be taken by the fairy. You could be taken by them if you're not careful. There's lots of stories about, maybe in old stories, whether they're true or not. You hear of people disappearing for years. They think they're gone for 5 minutes, and they come back years later. Yeah. So.
And I know them elementals also can attack you as well.
Yeah. I think it depends really on, what your intention is. If your intentions are good and positive, you're generally fairly okay. That's my sense anyway.
Because I remember an episode of Ghost Hunters where Dustin was in they were at Lep Castle there in Ireland.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
And that elemental ran right through him and knocked him over. And all they smelt was burnt rubber when it come through.
Oh, genius. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that. No, yeah. So, will I go there or not? We'll see.
Yeah, the owner of that castle was actually iffy of letting them investigate it because of that elemental being that aggressive.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, yeah. He needed somebody to come in and give him a bit of help. Yeah. Yeah.
So you suggest that death isn't an ending, but a transition. So when we die, where exactly are we transitioning to? And is it the same place for everyone?
Oh, well, it's not the same place for everyone. So we transition to wherever you believe you'll transition to. So I'm a firm believer in what you believe is what you will experience, that your thoughts create your reality. So if you believe in the traditional pearly gates and St. Peter or whatever Christian type heaven, well, that's more or less what you will experience, So if you believe that it's a vast other world to explore and to experience with many, many different realms, well, that's what you will experience as well. And if you believe there's nothing there, well, that's what you will initially experience. My understanding is that if you're that way inclined, eventually you will start wondering, is there more, or there'll be helpers there that'll come and see and try and persuade you, and drop little hints into you that there's more to life, or the hereafter. I don't call it the afterlife, because I think there only is life before. There is the before here, there's being here on earth, and there's after here. So yeah, so where do we go? We go, look, a lot of people will go to traditional heavens because that's what they believe, but then a lot of the heavens in the Western world are Christian dominated, whereas if you're a Hindu, you might go to completely somewhere else, or if you're a Muslim, you might go somewhere else, so it's really down to your thoughts and thinking, and and particularly once you leave this physical realm, the thoughts are very slow to manifest here, but when you move on, or when you leave here and leave this body behind, your thoughts will manifest almost instantly, so you can have a wonderful time. You can have your Ferrari and your big house and your drinks bar in the corner, and if that's what you choose, but it depends. You can have whatever you like. You can create your own afterlife, or your own hereafter, really.
Right. Are we judged when we die, or are we the ones who judge ourselves?
Judge, we're not. There's nobody, in my understanding, there's nobody judging us. There's no big, court hearing, to determine how we did.
Right.
That we assess in the first place. I'd go back to where we came in. When we came in the first place, I decided I'm going to have certain experiences here in this life, just to see how I get on with all the things that life is throwing at me. And so when we leave, or in the hereafter, when I leave this body, well, then I will be assessing how I think I did. Now, again, that's often done through, the life review, and the life review, or what I experience, it'll be often through my own eyes first, but through the eyes or the feelings of others, how, to get that feeling of how others felt, with what I said and did. And I'm not sure if I'm looking forward to revisiting some of my younger day experiences.
Right.
But look, I did come across somewhere, if you're 50%, 51% good, you're okay.
Right.
Yeah. I don't believe in the concept of hell, so I just believe that, that you assess how you did, and without any judgment, and even without any, what's the word? Without any, well, maybe judgment is the right word, without judging or condemnation of what you did, that it's all from a place of love. And so, it's kind of looking forward to it, but not looking forward to it, if that makes sense.
Right.
So what will flash up, or what will be prominent in my life review, or in anyone's life review, but it kind of, when you think about it, and that's kind of the one prompted the title of the book, That You Gotta Love It. When you think about how you're living your life, well, then if you understand that everything you do and say and think is going to crop up in your life review, well, then you might think and speak and act a little differently. Well, I will anyway. I do, Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people agreeing with you. Like Barbara says, she never believed in hell either.
Yeah. I came across, I've about 100 books on all aspects of death up in the attic, just because I've been writing this Death You Gotta Love It book for the last 7 or 8 years, and I've looked at every angle of it. But one of them is the guy Michael Newton. He wrote, and he speaks about, and I mentioned it in the book. He speaks of one example. He says there's no judgment or there's no hell, but there was this, kind of very traditional Christian preacher who preached fire and brimstone, and when he passed over, the first thing he saw was this devil-like figure, you know. But
Right.
apparently, because his guide just pretending to be a devil just to give him a fright, you know. So they had to laugh about it.
Right.
Shortly
And
after. But initially, he thought he was in hell, you know. But it was because that's what he had been preaching and that's what he believed, you know. But that's
right. And we all have spirit guides, especially with us with all the abilities. We do have spirit guides that guide us through the spirit world, and they were human once, so they like to play the jokes too.
Yeah. Well, mine would need to have a sense of humor. You see what I've been through and going through. But it's nice to know as well that we have support, you know, and I write about that in Death You Gotta Love It, that we're not alone, you know, and so you're not alone during life, even though you might feel it. But if as you say, we have spirit guides, you can tune into them, you know, and they're going to be with you. They're going to be with you when you transition. So nobody dies alone, you know, that you're
right.
You always have some if a spirit guide with you, or often deceased family members or loved ones are going to be there helping you or guiding you across, you know, and the majority of people, you know, and all the accounts from hospitals and hospices are that at the last moments people are in peace, you know, whatever, you know, distress they may be in physically or even emotionally or mentally coming up to the point, you know, that there's always almost always this moment, you know, just before death where there's a sense of peace and the person is at peace with themselves and that they generally pass peacefully, you know. Now, again, if, you know, and this is somewhere your world comes in, you know, if people have a traumatic death and the shocking, you know, that it's a complete shock to the system, well, then their energy can be all over the place and they may not transition so easily or may not even realize that the body is dead and that they've left the body. You know, a lot of people still believe that they're still alive, you know, so, and often, you know, what people might commonly refer to as ghosts, you know, are often discarnate, or, you know, that they've left the body, they've no body to be with, but they haven't transitioned on to their next level, you know, so they hang around, and, you know, the majority of them, the majority that I come across in my work are lost, really, you know, or they don't know where they are, you know, that they're not necessarily harmful, you know, that they just would maybe they generally pass on peacefully when you tell them that it's okay to move on, you know?
Right. With death, are we dealing with a force, a process, or something far more conscious than we've ever imagined?
Oh, wow. For me, death is a consciousness. It has an energy. Now, you know, most of that, you know, when people portray it, they portray it as a skeleton in a black hooded cloak with a side, you know, so it's often portrayed as I would see it negatively, but that's not for me, death is like a beautiful midwife who is helping us move from one way of being to another, you know, so I believe it's conscious. I believe that there is an energy and a consciousness around death that, you know, wherever it came from, well, where did it come from? Probably came from being born. You know, if you weren't born, you wouldn't die, you know, and it's interesting. It's interesting that, you know, we celebrate birth, and, well, we celebrate when a baby is born, the baby cries and everybody laughs, you know, and then when somebody dies, it's generally opposite of that. Everybody cries, and does the person laugh? Maybe they do. You know, there can be a great. Well, I believe there's a freedom. I believe that this earth life is almost a difficult training school. You know, where those of us who wanted the fast track to advancement or advance our consciousness or awareness, we say, okay, I'll go to Earth and I'll have all these crazy experiences and see how I respond. You know, and sometimes they're almost overwhelming, overpowering, and all the emotions that we have with them, you know. And then you pass and you think, oh, okay, well, then you review it and say, all right. Well, or in the middle of this, I'm asking sometimes, why did I come here at all, you know? But look, anyone here and anyone listening, lads, we're on the fast track, you know, to fast track to higher consciousness. That's what I believe. Yeah. So,
Is there anything waiting on the other side that would completely shock even the most spiritual person?
Oh, there, even the most spiritual person. Yes and no. So it depends on, is that a proper answer? Yes and no?
Yeah.
It depends really, just because you're spiritual doesn't mean you've necessarily explored all that death has and entails, and what I call the hereafter. That there are as many aspects of after life or the after death realm as you can imagine, and more. So you could be shocked if you were shockable, if that's the word. But I believe, again, you see, I'm coming back. I suppose I can only speak not from my own experience, not in this death, but in my exploration and in my meditations, and in I've done consciousness travels to and some other realms, and even the death realm, and it's really what you expect it to be is what you will experience. And usually very shortly after passing, once you realize that you don't have the body anymore, and you go through kind of the life reviews, then if you're aware, you realize that, okay, what I'm thinking is appearing in front of me. So these stories that you hear of, and you'd hear them even in Buddhist tradition, of passing through the demon realm and stuff like that, and they generally are constructs of the mind. So if you have fears, they can manifest, and they can manifest in many different forms, and whatever form is probably most frightening is how your fear will manifest. And so the thrust of Death You Got to Love It book is to shift from being in fear to being in love, but to do it when you're alive, so that after, when you don't longer have a body, then you have dealt with all your fears, well, as many of them as you're aware of, so that you don't have all these triggers or these buttons to push, So
Right.
And I don't know. I said it when I met my current wife over 20 years ago, and she'd be talking with her kind of psychic friends about spirits or entities, or they're driving down the street and they don't know if the person crossing the road is a real person or if it's a spirit, and whether they should brake or whether they'll cause an accident, or what. Nobody might know what they were braking for, So I would run out of the room because I had so many different fears within me, that it was just, no, I don't want to listen to it. I'm not able to listen to it, So, but over the years, I've worked on myself, and if a fear comes up, I go into it, and I say, okay, where is it? Where is it coming from? And how do I heal it and clear it? And so, switching, and then, you're either in fear or you're in love, or that's my understanding.
Right.
There's a continuum there. So, and it's a choice. And we often don't realize it's a choice, that you can choose to be in fear, or you can choose, okay, what is the opposite of being in fear? And again, love, generally my way of getting out of fear and into love is start reciting, what am I grateful for? And simple things, grateful that I have hands, or that I can see, or that I have a roof over my head, or a car outside the door, or whatever it might be. So, So I don't know. How did I get onto that?
Jeanette had a question for you. Do you believe in reincarnation? And if so, do you get to see everyone on the other side from all of your lives?
Yes. And how many questions are there? 2 questions. As regards reincarnation, my understanding now, and from my experience, is that all of our lives are happening at the same time. And so that while there's time here on earth, and it's a difficult concept to understand if there's no time, but that my higher consciousness, that I call my infinite self, has decided to have an experience as Tony here in this life, but it's also having an experience in the future and some other character or some other body, and experiences in the past, that they all happen at the same time. And interestingly, I've just come back from, I went attending a course on, it's called Meet Your Ancestors. There's a college in England called the Arthur Findlay College. And this was about exploring past lives, future lives, lives out of this world. And as I started remembering these some of my more of my past lives, it was like it brings more of a sense of who I am now in this life into it. So in one way, I believe in reincarnation in that we have many, many lives. But I believe that when you're when you're no longer in this body and in this realm, they're all actually happening at the same time. So do you get to meet, what was the question? Do you get to meet others? Yes, you will get to meet, if you want to meet your lost loved ones, and if you get to see everyone on the other side, yes, you will get to meet whoever you choose you want to meet. And if you don't want to meet someone, you don't have to meet them.
Right.
Which can be handy. Yeah. So it's like, that, if the energy of our loved ones, or their energy is also there, in the hereafter realm. So of course you can meet them and spend time with them.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can choose, okay, you can spend time with them, and then you can go off on your hereafter adventures to explore other realms in the hereafter. Again, you can only explore, from my experience and my understanding, you can only explore what your level of consciousness allows you to explore. That almost like there's energetic barriers, I would have experienced them as cloud barriers, that
right.
you can pass through if you're of the right vibration, if you're a higher vibration in the barrier. But if not, you can't get through. You have to experience this first before you will progress further. So, yeah. And you can move from a higher to a lower, but not a lower to a higher unless you've able to or been there. Yeah.
Carol asks, do you know if there's 7 realms, layers in heaven?
Yeah, seven is a very earthly number. So a lot of how we understand life and existence is through the number 7 colors of the rainbow, or 7 notes in the scale, or 7. There are as many realms and layers in heaven as you can experience. There's a lot more, in my understanding. Sometimes you hear the 7 times 7 or 7 times 7 times 7.
Right.
The concept of trying to put it's infinite. So trying to put a number on it, for me, it doesn't ring through. That there's, what was it Jesus said, in my Father's house there are many mansions, or words to that effect. So, and generally you will experience what you choose to experience, or what your life experience in this life, lead you to in heaven or in the afterlife realm. So for me, it's too limiting to have 7 or as many times 7 as you wish. That there is
right.
It's infinite, and you are infinite. So you can experience as many different realms as you choose, or as you decide. Yeah.
Can you explain why dreams are a training ground for death?
Because the similarity is that when you generally fall asleep, or when you dream, when you fall asleep, your state of consciousness shifts. You're no longer conscious that you have a physical body. So when you start dreaming, you're in an energetic realm and in an energetic world, and it's almost exactly identical to when after death, that you no longer have a physical body, or you're no longer aware that you have a physical body, or that can take a little bit of time to dissolve that awareness. But so dreams for me are one of the training grounds, and dreams a lot of time there. How would I put it there? It appears that we don't have control over them. That if they're coming at us, and look, we'll have our pleasures and our fears come up in our dreams. That if that's what you're experiencing here, but if you get to the stage of lucid dreaming, where you become aware that you're dreaming, well, then you start having control and influence over how you direct what's happening in the dream. And so that's very, very similar to, again, when you become aware after leaving the body, after death, when you become aware that you have the ability to influence what you're experiencing, well, then it's very, very similar to having a dream or having a lucid dream.
Right.
So it's the dreaming. I mean, I haven't had many lucid dreams, you know. Now, I remember one time I was dreaming, and I woke up and I told my wife about the dream, and then I woke up. So I was dreaming in my dream. Yeah, it's a bit like, what's that movie, Inception? You know, that was interesting. So, but there's a chapter in Death You Got to Love It called Death Training Camp. You know, how to train for your death, because it's, you know, I think a lot of people avoid thinking about it or considering it, and so there are ways to train yourself. And one of the ways is dreaming, or training in lucid dreaming, or out-of-body experiences, and so on. There are even meditation, you know, can bring you into a very, very quiet state of mind, which allows your consciousness to expand. And it's like that expansion of consciousness is what is experienced in afterlife, or after this death, is after death, you know.
Carol asks, do you know it is that 2 dimensions could be assessed while awake?
I'm not sure what the 2 dimensions are, but when you, like my experience in meditation, it's like I can bring myself into a light trance. So I'm aware that I have a physical body, but my mind or my consciousness is experiencing beyond that. So it's experiencing whatever realm I choose to explore. And I would have traveled, you know, through different programs, or even on my own. You know, I did some programs with the Monroe Institute, you know, where Bob Monroe traveled out of his body, and I did programs with those, and found myself, you know, one of them was to go to the realm where, you know, the meeting point between this earth and what we call heaven, and you can meet deceased relatives there if you choose, you know. And I actually write about ways of, there are ways to contact deceased loved ones, you know, and normally, you know, people don't realize that they can access, you know, this other, the hereafter realm, that they can, you know, Raymond Moody, who wrote a book, you know, and I write about this in Death You Got to Love It. He built a psychomantium, which is a darkened room with a mirror and a light to the side. And for an hour or two, he would build the people up to, you know, if they wanted to meet someone, he'd get them talking about them, looking at photographs of the deceased person. And then they'd spend an hour or two in this room, and something like 70% of them had experiences of they described it as their deceased loved ones actually manifesting, appearing in the room to them.
Oh, wow.
And I write about it in Death You Got to Love It. And then there are other ways, and there's a process called induced afterlife, IADC communication, where you can, through certain techniques, you can communicate with deceased loved ones and receive messages from them. Or again, as I said, I write about this in Death You Got to Love It. And I think meeting the dead, or Walking Dead, or the Talking Dead. I can't remember the title of the chapter. You have to read the book to remember. But that you can, and even, you know, the instrument, you know, what is that? You know, that there are people who you know, speak or connect with it, and they ask questions, and it's been recorded. And while it's happening, there's no sound coming back on the recording, but when the recording is played back, and there's one lady, Sonia Rinaldi, who I write about in the book, she does this for children who, you know, to support parents who have lost children, and the voice of children respond to some of the questions, and it's deeply, deeply moving experience, you know. And so we're here, I suppose we're talking somewhat among friends, you know, who are people who would be somewhat aware that, you know, that those who have passed can communicate, you know, or make themselves known or aware through many different ways, you know. So yeah, where was I going? Where was I going with this? You're going to have to keep me on track here, Russell. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like what us paranormal researchers call like an EVP session is what she was doing.
Yes, yeah, electronic voice communication.
Yep.
Yes, yeah, and there's an amazing experience where, what was his name? Jorgensen. He was kind of the father of EVP.
Mm-hmm.
And he passed, but this lady was, again, you'd have to get the full details. I'm only giving a very brief summary, but she was at a medium, some medium gathering, there was a medium there, and the voice of Jorgensen came through to her to tell her what she was doing wrong with her, technically with her equipment, so that she would pick up the voices of the deceased better. And it's like she was kind of blown away. He asked specifically for her. So his voice came through the medium and asked specifically for her. It's, my explorations of this whole death, all the aspects of death realm it's fascinating. It's a fascinating subject, and it's fascinating to know that we're all going to experience it. In a crazy way, I'm looking forward to it myself. Look, a bit of excitement, not necessarily the moment, not maybe the lead up to it, but that moment when I leave the body and say, okay, I'm out of here, that'll be an adventure in itself.
Right. Carol asks, is that a form of astral travel?
I'm not 100% sure what she's referring to, but yes. Yeah, I think when I was talking about experiences without the body, yes, it is. Yeah, I mean, some people call it astral travel. Some people call it, out of body experience, OBEs or out of body experiences. For me, I don't have the experience of leaving the body and looking down at it, like a lot of people do. But I have the experience of expanding my consciousness into other realms. So I'm partly aware that I'm still in the physical body, but also I'm very much aware of where I'm going or where I'm directing my consciousness to. So, yeah.
Jerry Buzzard asks, deja vu, how does it happen? Do you dream of something, then it actually happens, or is it a sign that someone has sent you to do something? Complicated question, I know.
Yeah. If he's talking about deja vu, having the experience that this happened before, or I've had lots of those, and usually they're about past, what we call past lives, other lives. I have to find new terminology for my experiences, but other lives. So I have found myself someplace and go, oh, I've been here before, and usually, interestingly, the people that I'm with at the time. So someone told me my wife and I have had 26 past lives together, but it could be a group of friends or somebody else with me, and we could go somewhere, and I'll go, yeah, not only I've been here before, but we've been here before. It's almost like that we have connections with everybody we meet in life.
Right.
So the deja vu is, okay, for me, here's a different theory. That you have all this information coming in for this life, and you have information that's there for the other lives, and they overlap a little bit. And so when the two bits of information that are in the exact same place meet, it's like, oh, I've been here before. Or if it's something that you've experienced that, God, this has happened before, there can be a glitch in the matrix as well, that sometimes the information, the data stream that's coming in,
right,
sort of repeats. I think a lot of people, there's some people who go to the same place. It might be some on holiday for their holidays or vacation, and it's someplace bizarre or unusual. That's more than likely that they experienced or had happy experiences there in another life, and they're going back there. They don't realize they're going back there. They just they feel comfortable there because they feel somewhat familiar with the place. And I'm not sure if that's answering Jerry's question, if that's exactly what he was talking about. But so is someone prompting us? I believe we are the ones prompting ourselves. Yeah.
Right.
Somebody coming visiting us?
Yeah, something's moving around in my house. My house is haunted, so.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
And usually when I'm doing my podcast, they start making themselves known.
Yeah. Well, they probably want to join the conversation, So yeah. Well, if
a lot a lot of times if I don't acknowledge them, they'll mess
Yeah.
with equipment and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's one of the easiest things for and beings in the spirit world is to mess with the electrical equipment.
Yep.
That it's easy to mess with electrical equipment. To flashlights or to get a bit of static on the radio or on whatever it is. Yeah.
I got a little story to tell you. I had a dream one night, and in the dream, I woke up in the middle of this farmhouse, and I woke up and you walk in the door, and it's like a little hallway, and then there's stairs.
Yes.
And I could hear a girl upstairs yelling, "Help me."
Right. Yeah.
Now I can describe the whole front of the farmhouse, everything. There's a red barn on the left-hand side of the farmhouse.
Yeah.
The house is white and it's got the round pillars down on the front porch. And for the life of me, I can remember the dream and everything, but I can never find this house or.
Yeah. If you're meant to find it, you will find it. But you can send her. You can talk to her from the conscious world as well, or if you just get a quiet moment and reconnect with her, and maybe depending on you may even receive some insights as to what type of help she's looking for. It might be she might just feel trapped or something. It might be that her spirit is trapped, or it might be that in whatever life she was in that she needed some help, or she just might have got locked in a cupboard or something accidentally. You just don't know sometimes, when you hear, but you would probably be able to decipher by the tone of her, help me, again, in the dream, you see, we slip into just another vibration, another dimensional realm, so, but it could be, get a sense it's something might be somewhere in the earthly realm, but maybe not necessarily in this time, if that makes sense. That it feels like it's a little bit in the past, in our past. Yeah.
Barbara says, I have dreamt all my life, and the dreams are very real. I have a lot of dreams that are filled with a great number of people I have known, but who are now dead. Is there any significance to this?
Yeah, well, I mean, because when we're in our dream, our active mind, our everyday mind is a lot quieter, so that if deceased people are looking to, contact you, send messages, they can appear in your dreams. It's like you've shifted, you're in a different vibrational realm when you're in your dreams, and that's easier for people on the other side to connect with us, because in our everyday lives, we're often generally, our minds are too busy. We're thinking we must go shopping, and we must go here, we must do this, or we're on social media scrolling through it, or we're, there's just listening to, watching movies or reading books, or the mind is busy. And it's only when that mind quietens sometimes that you start becoming aware of other sort of realms or dimensions or other vibrational frequencies that you can tune into. It's almost like, you have a radio and you have radio stations, you're just tuned into the one you're tuned into. So most of the time we're tuned into our everyday life. And because we have lots of practical things to do, we have a job or to earn money or, get food or have a shower, whatever it is, that we don't have time just to sit and be quiet, and do you know anybody who sits down for 30 minutes now and just does nothing, no phone, no book, no radio, no TV, so how if somebody wants to make contact with you, how are they going to do it? More than likely not in your everyday. So, look, when she's asleep, we'll pop in there and give messages, or we'll just. And sometimes it depends on the nature of it. Oftentimes it's reassuring, that almost all the messages that come, through mediums from the other realm, people are deceased, it's to say that let their loved ones know that they're okay, that they don't worry about us, and that would be my experience as well, for people who have passed, if they make themselves known to me, that it's almost always I'm okay, okay, sometimes people initially after they passed, there's a settling in period of, I've had people just a few days, that, oh, I don't know where I am type of a thing, you know, but they'll always,
Right.
you know, because there's support there. You're, I'm repeating myself, but you're not alone, you know. And it's a bit like, you know, that if there is something going on or continuing in your relationship with people who have passed, well then, you know, if you think about them, or there's some unfinished business, whatever it is, that they may seek to make themselves more known. Again, if you know, those who are deceased and passed, they're often trying to make contact, and often with their loved ones, you know, and their loved ones are grieving. And this is one part of the book, Death You Gotta Love It, that I struggled with and spent a lot of time with, because I understand and know that, you know, people who are grieving, you know, that it's a very intense emotional time for them, you know. And so the title of the book, you know, can, you know, might not immediately appeal to them, but it's about that there's always a huge amount of love there coming from the people who have passed. But they need to be able to get through to their loved ones. And when grief is a very strong emotion, and it's a lower vibration, and there's no judgment in this. You know, I've grieved myself, you know, and had that sense of emptiness and numbness and not knowing, you know, gosh, couldn't, you know, was out of sorts for weeks or months or however long it was, you know. And so if there was a person who was passed was trying to contact me, they probably couldn't get through. So it's like there's a process that if you can, and again, I have some friends who, you know, would be quite spiritual, and they would have said when a loved one died that when they're in grief, they can't contact them, but in their quiet moments when they're not in that depth of, you know, sadness, that they know that they're present around them. They can feel their presence around them. So loved ones will do what they can from where they are to comfort, you know, those who are still here on Earth, on this planet. Yeah.
Right. And I strongly believe that when my mom passed away in 2018,
Yes.
that night her presence was there, and I made contact with her and actually spoke to her that night.
Yes. And was she okay?
Yep, she was fine, and she was safe. And that night when my dad went to bed, he felt an arm go around him, like she was holding him.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And I write there was a survey done in the US, maybe it was up to 20 years ago now, you know, and I write about it in Death You Gotta Love It in the book. And I think about 75 or 80% of people have had a sign from a deceased loved one. Anything from them almost appearing in the room to their favorite song coming on the radio, or you know, something is moved in the house, you know, some place where they might leave their keys or something, or the keys get moved a little bit, you know, that they're making often making an effort to communicate. But the majority of people who've had these experiences didn't talk about them, you know, because they, you know, the everyday person, I don't know, are we everyday people or not? Maybe I am, but that they would kind of dismiss, you're just imagining it so that you don't feel so sad, or it's your imagination, you know. And but when you're in the understanding that people who die are still alive, you know, and there is only life, well then it's just a matter of tuning into their frequency, turning the dial on your radio as best you can. And I think if you decide that you want to, well then you more than likely will, you know. But there's a guy, I write about him in the book, Eric, and he took his own life, you know, but he said he was trying to contact his loved ones afterwards, and he said he used bad language, you know, to express how difficult it was to get through to them because of where they were. And understandably, they were so sad and upset, you know, but that he couldn't get through to them for a little while, you know, until later on he did, you know.
Right.
So yeah.
And Death You Gotta Love It, it has techniques for communicating with the deceased loved ones. Could you share the communication methods you'll find in that book?
Yeah. Some of them are technical and some of them are they're almost intuitive, you know. So, and if I have spoken some of this already, even if I'm repeating myself, it's probably of use to people who are listening. You know, I mentioned there's an induced after death communication technique where you use kind of tapping and eye movements, and it's really most of the techniques are to take you out of your normal everyday way of existing into a different state of consciousness, maybe a slight trance or something like that, you know. And there's another one, loving heart connections, you know, where you just do this program once with a trained facilitator, and then you have this technique all to continue using for as often as you wish, you know. So and I mentioned Raymond Moody and his psychomantium, you know, where you go into this darkened room, but you need to build up to that, you know. So if you're, well, I don't know where he was, I don't know where he is now in the States, you know. He's the guy who wrote about near-death experiences, who coined the phrase near-death experience. But these are technical ways of doing it. But if you are able, if your intention is to communicate, you can do it yourself. Particularly if you start meditating, get used to meditating, and that when the mind starts to quieten, if you send out the intention in that space to your loved ones, if they will more than likely pick it up. You know, actually, anytime, and here I'm making a statement, anytime you think of your loved ones, they hear that thought. They become aware that you're thinking about them. You know, and anytime you think of them, it's a two-way. They're also thinking of you. You know, so I find that very reassuring. I don't know, maybe being a bit soppy out here.
You talk about training for your death. What do you mean, and how do you do it? Can we become a master of death rather than a victim?
Yes, you can. Yeah, I'm interested just first on the master, the victim. You know, there was a wonderful book on death and dying, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. It's kind of a standard one, you know, where the different stages of death, about fear and anger and denial and bargaining, and they're all almost from a place of I've no control over death or what happens. And my understanding is that we have way more control or mastery over death than we even understand or allow ourselves to have. And it's again shifting from the fear of death to the love of death. Come here, what was the question again, Ross? Something about, can we become master of it or something, is it? Yeah. Oh, training for death. Training for death. Yeah. Okay, so I have a chapter in the book called Death Training Camp. You know, it's a strange chapter title, but when you read the book, you'll understand. It's really, you know, that it's almost if you were going doing something, you know, if you had to run a marathon, you train for it, or if you had to, you know, if you're going hiking across the Appalachians or something, you would do a little bit of training, you know, and we're all going to experience this death experience. And yet it's almost like, oh, don't think about it. And you're expected to know what to do when that moment starts getting closer, or in that moment. But I mentioned dreams, obviously, you know, are one way of training, or going to sleep is one way of training. If you thought you weren't going to wake up, you know, and I'm talking to you here, you know, I mean, I could drop dead here now. To be a great ad for your podcast, Russell, you know, if I, you know, man died while talking about death, you know. But in the world I'm living in, the training of death is almost an everyday, you know, I try and remind myself every day, okay, I don't know, you know, at any moment, you know, if something could go, something happened in the physical body. So again, I'm not going to die, but the body can die. But one simple way is, you know, when something breaks or something ends, when you see flowers withering, or when you drop your favorite mug and it smashes on the floor, you know, these are all endings. And any ending in life that you become aware of, just look at how you are reacting or responding to when something ends. Right. And so are you in shock, or are you saying, oh, well, thank you for the service that my favorite mug gave me, or whatever it might be, you know, or, you know, I mean, if it's a pet, it can be almost as close as to many people as a living human, you know, that the bond between, you know, people and their dog or their cat or whatever, that there can be a huge energetic connection there. So when you know, and oftentimes there's less understanding given to people who have lost a close family pet than there is to people who have lost a living, you know, a human relative. But every moment for me, you know, or every moment, particularly where there's an ending or where something ends or something finishes, even if you're in a group, you know, so next Sunday when you finish in at your haunted, your, what's the word, your that wherever you're going on your
the haunted funeral home.
Haunted funeral home. You know, the group of people there will leave, you know, and there's a separation, and there'll be, you know, you'll have come together for a little while, a day or two or a few hours, and there'll be a bond set up, and then that bond dissolves or it's broken, you know. And so that is, there are many deaths happening to us all the time, but we don't acknowledge them as such, you know, and they're not, and I'm not comparing it to it, but it's part of training for death. Say, okay, this is ending now. You may never see some of those people again, you know, but you've only met them briefly, so there's not going to be a huge sense of loss, but it's acknowledging that there's something is ending. Yeah, as I said, it's like if something breaks or something, yeah. So, but also, of course, when something ends, something else begins. You know, if you break your favorite mug, you're going to have to get a new mug. You know, so,
right?
Yeah. So, was that all about? Was that enough on training? I mentioned the dreams, meditation. You know, I mean, obviously the out of body experiences, but our lucid dreaming. But you have to train at those, and some people may not, you know, find that as easy as others. You know, so we have different abilities. Some people can just pop out of their body and fly around the place, you know, and others it doesn't work for them. So you find one that works for you, one way of training for death that works for you. And contemplating your death is actually, when I was 15 years ago, when this book, Death You Gotta Love It, started, I was meditating and the thought popped in, oh, what about your death? You know, so I started contemplating my death. And strangely enough, the first thing that came to mind was, oh, I'm not always going to have a physical body. So is there something that I want to experience in this physical body that I won't be able to when I don't have the body? And I had never experienced long hair, even though I was a child of the 60s. I was never that hippie long hair.
Right.
So I let my hair grow. And it was halfway down my back 6 years later. And then I cut it off. So, I've experienced that now. So in some ways, we have this physical body with hearing and smell and taste, and to enjoy having a physical body. So enjoy it while you have it, you know, and realize that, you know, that you're not always going to have it. You'll have other wonderful experiences when you don't, but this is one of the great benefits of coming to Earth, is to have a physical body that you can do wonderful things with. Yeah.
Maria Haunted Hellcat asks, do you think the dead need time when they die before you try to contact them?
Some do. Depending on the type of life somebody has had, they may need to go to a healing place first, you know, they may need, sometimes somebody dies and their first, you know, their place of origin may have been quite far away, and they might need to travel there first, almost to recharge their batteries or whatever before, you know. So occasionally, you know, sometimes, you know, contact with the dead, deceased can be made straight away, and other times it's almost like, where are they? You know, they're not showing themselves. You can't hear them, you know, you can't access them. You know, our mediums, or, you know, who are used to doing this work, saying, look, they're just not showing themselves. But if they've had a lot of life experiences, they may need to recover from that. They might just be in the healing place. Now, they may send a message saying, look, you know, when you tune in, look, I have to go. I have to spend time recovering from the life experiences I've had, you know. So, what was the question? Do they? I don't know. I can't remember what the question. Hopefully, I answered it.
Do you think the dead need time when they die before you try to contact them?
Not necessarily. You can try to contact them at any stage, you know, and if they do need more time to recuperate, you know, or they may let you know about it. So not always, you know. Some people who pass are ready to connect straight away, you know, and particularly to give reassurance, you know. If you're not getting anything, see, they may have to drop their vibration as well to connect. It depends on where you're at, you know. So It's good to be considerate of them. I mean, you know, it's nice to get the reassurances, but be considerate of where they are. And if and when you establish contact, well, you can have a conversation, you know, say, okay, listen, are you okay having these chats, or do you need a break for a few months or whatever it is, you know, or and this can be through yourself or through somebody like a medium who's used to contacting deceased, you know, the dead. Yeah.
And Jeanette asked, if someone's life is cut short because of an accident, how and who gives them the option to come back?
Okay. Generally, if somebody's life is cut short, they often come back fairly quickly, you know, and that's the evidence, and I write about it in Death You Gotta Love It, that they will tend to come back, and oftentimes to a very similar area, you know, to a very similar place. It's almost like that they didn't fulfill all the experiences, or didn't have all the experience that they had decided that they would have. So there are a number of theories as to who decides. I believe ultimately I decide, or you decide, or the person themselves decides, but it's from a higher state of consciousness. So depending on the awareness of the person who has an accident and a sudden, you know, death, that it may be through their guides or through, you know, the council of elders, or whatever terminology we put on the people who communicate with them, you know, that who are there with them after they pass, you know,
right.
that it's really up to the individual themselves. And I believe ultimately there is only one consciousness that I'm a part of. Once, if I can move myself as far enough along that trajectory, you know, so I just am where I am. But I even believe guides are part of this oneness, you know, but that's how we understand, or how we communicate. They communicate with us as if they're present themselves as some kind of a human form. It could be a Native American Indian, or it could be an Aboriginal, or it could be you know, somewhere in Africa. It doesn't matter, but they will present themselves in a form, or the energy or consciousness will present itself in a form that is understandable to us. So again, to repeat, I think what I've said about if somebody passes, they generally will come back straight away, and often they come back with, you know, they have some more interesting stories and examples in Death You Gotta Love It about you know, children particularly who have died, and they have birthmarks in their next life, and the birthmarks are exactly, you know, if they were shot in the chest by accidentally or something, the bullet, and some of these have been proven, you know, with photographs before and after. They're exactly the same places, you know, or the birthmark is where they had the wound that ended one life, is they have a birthmark there in the next life, you know, so that there's so sometimes the person themselves decides, sometimes it's decided with what we would call their guides or their masters or the council of elders, you know, that it varies. It's not the same for everybody. It really depends on, you know, the person themselves. But often with an accidental death, there is an element of confusion, or there can be an element of confusion. There's suddenly nobody, and where am I, or what's happening, you know?
Right. Yeah, because we even find in our paranormal research investigating that a lot of the spirits that we come in contact to don't realize they're dead, or they're still protecting their own space.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I came across one, you know, a young boy who had been killed in a car accident. He didn't know where he was, you know, he was just wandering around kind of the fields in the area, and just helped him move on, you know. So
yep.
You know, and as you say, a lot of the paranormal work that you do, they're what we might be called lost souls, you know, that they just don't know where they are, you know, and they just need a little bit of help sometimes, you know, that they're, you know,
We worked another one where there was a man trapped there. He was killed in a car accident.
Yeah.
And he thought that was his house there, and he was trapped there looking for his family.
Yes. Yeah. And I write about people who have passed, and particularly that if they don't realize that they're dead, they will just gravitate somewhere, you know, and they almost believe that they're still alive, so they're continuing their life. As you said, that he thought that was his house and he was living
Yeah.
there, or that they're almost carrying on as they see it everyday activities, and it's like until somebody like you or somebody else comes along and says, look, you don't have a body anymore, you need to move on to where, what we call it, your next highest level of existence, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeanette says, my grandma Ruby's family is from Belfast, Ireland.
Hello, Jeanette from Ireland. I'm about as far from Belfast as you can get. I'm at the very opposite end. I'm in the very southwest, and Belfast is in the northeast. So Ireland is a small place, but it would take me about 7 hours to drive there. So
yeah, my great grandmother, she's from Dublin, Ireland.
Oh, yeah. Big city. Well, not by U.S. standards, but by our standards.
Right. Granzer had a question. Tony Christie, do you have information or in your research of maybe how some government sections are known to do extensive research in the afterlife, the field you research in?
Okay, in all my research and all the reading and books I bought, I didn't come across any government agency or that was actively investigating the afterlife or the hereafter. There's certainly a lot of them who are investigating, or there were remote viewing and that type of out of body or whatever what you'd call it experiences. I'm not aware. I would think if there were, the governments in a lot of countries wouldn't be acting the way they are.
Right.
If they realize that there's more to this existence than just what we're experiencing here on this earthly realm, and my experience is that anybody, and the accounts of people, whether it's through mediums or how they get the message across, or people who have near-death experiences, it appears that most of the reason we have these experiences is to learn to love more. And, so where would they, where is the love, in what a lot of the governments are doing, it's
right.
Like, I don't see it, and again, learning to love more, that's where the title of my book came, and that love, we rarely associate death with love, except in the part of loss or love lost or something like that. So the whole approach of loving death is somewhat radical. It's a bit out there. It's a bit out there, but the intention of the book is obviously from a place of compassion and love, but it's to prompt people to give them to let people realize they have a choice in that they can think differently about. They don't have to be in fear about death, and the whole Death You Gotta Love It is a book that it brings them through many different aspects before, even examples of children who choose their parents before they were born, past life experience of children and adults, the whole death realms that people have explored. So the more you are informed about something, the less you will fear it, whatever it is, and so, governments, somebody popped up there that governments have been, I'm not surprised that they would be exploring the other realms. They probably don't need to, might admit it, or it's probably secret somewhere, but but I don't know what the reason they're doing it is. I'm not sure,
Right. Maria Haunted Hellcat asks, do you think during out of body can you have your astral cord severed?
Yeah, I mean the astral cord, the silver cord, is generally seen as your connection to the physical. Only if it's your time. It's your time to leave. If it's severed, well, you've severed your connection with the physical body. So I am not aware of it ever happening. It's not something that would be common. Look, I think we all choose the time. We choose how we're going to leave, but we choose several different options. So before we're born, I believe that we choose, I'll either leave this way or that way or that way.
Right.
There's a number of different ways, and depending on where you are or how things are going in your life at any one point in time when that opportunity comes, you'll either take it or you don't take it. So, you know, you hear of people walking away from, they've totaled the car to complete write-off, and so how can anybody survive that? There was a real example that jumped out at me, and it still does, is there was a plane crash in India within the last year. You know, there was 200 or 300 people on board, all killed. One guy walked away, and I said, that wasn't his time. How did he, you know, it's not like he was seriously injured. He walked away from it. You know, everybody else dead, you know, so again, you know, and if you have a near, well, they're called near misses though, but they're actually near hits, you know, because you miss it. They're not near misses. You know, that when you have that, you can say, okay, well, maybe that was one of my opportunities to leave. Or, you know, the people who they're going to get on a train or a plane, and the plane crashes, and for some reason they don't get on it. You know, that's they're just not taking that one of the choices of leaving this body that they had given themselves.
Jeanette says, like the movie Insidious, if you're out of your body too long, can another spirit get in? Any truth to that?
That's a complicated question. Generally, no, but you know, there are stories of, you know, different spirits or energies popping in to a body or not, or popping in at, you know, even at a death sometimes, you know, that the person, you know, they say it's not the same person. Generally, you know, anyone who's experienced in out-of-body experiences will have a protected space around them, you know, or they'll have set the intention that this wouldn't happen, you know. So if you are, you know, doing out-of-body experiences, the intention that you set for returning is as important as the intention you set for going out, you know. Yeah.
Right. Granzer asked, Mr. Christie, apologies if I missed it, but do you go to specific areas to do ghost paranormal research, maybe in some areas of high energy, areas where the troubles were?
You know, yes and no. I do energy clearing of houses mainly and properties for people. So there undoubtedly has been and will be some paranormal activity there, you know. I remember doing one with my wife, and it was a house where they were renting the house to people, and people would only stay a few months and they'd leave, or they'd difficulty renting it. And so they moved into the house themselves, and they said, there's stuff going on here, we need you to clear it. We worked from a distance. We cleared it from a distance. But the next day after we had the work done, there was a phone call, and they said, they're banging the cupboard door. You know, the cupboard doors were opening and closing and banging, apparently all by themselves, you know. And my wife just said, look, the spirits just, they don't want to leave, but they have to leave because of the work we did. And within 24 hours that had all stopped, you know. There's huge amount of what would be called sacred sites in Ireland, and the energies in those. I mentioned the fairies earlier. We went to a fairy fort just to check out the energies and to feel what it was like. We had a pendulum, you know. The pendulum spun so much, the top of it flew off and into the bushes. It was like, whoa, what's happening here? Like this, don't be checking our energies or something like that, you know. So, but there, in Ireland as well, a lot we find in our work, a lot of the land is cursed because Ireland was taken over by England, and people were driven off the land, and that's why there's so many Irish descendants in the US even, you know. They just had to leave because, you know, their land was taken from them, or they weren't able to make a living here. And so the land will be cursed, you know, and the curses are just people set an intention, oh, I hope whoever gets this has no luck or whatever, or that type of an intention. And we often don't realize, you know, just putting a thought out there has an energy, and it can manifest for people, you know. So we would do a lot of, I would think, I'm not sure, I think there was only once in hundreds of places that we have cleared that there was no curse on the land in Ireland. It's most unusual, you know. And we went to a place where there was, you know, we deal with black magic, which is kind of active energetic intention put on the land. This was a foreign person who they had land abroad, and some family members abroad were trying to get the land off them, and so they were getting someone there to do black magic on them in Ireland, in the land. And it took us, normally something that would take us 5 minutes energetically to clear, it took us 2 hours hard work, you know, with every technique we had in our toolkit to shift that. You know, we got to shift it, but you know, it's and a lot of the energies don't want you being there, or don't want you doing this work. You know, this can be very distracting. So as I said, if we're going somewhere, the two of us go, because you need to keep your focus and intention.
Right.
And all kinds of distractions. You're aware of this, that you know that if the spirits or energies don't want you there, they'll find some way of distracting you, or getting you out, or something happening, or your phone ringing, or you're just they'll lash every conceivable thought at you, you know, to
Right.
to get you to not do what you might be thinking of doing. So
Right. I've got 2 more questions, and I'll let you get some rest.
okay, cool. Yeah, I'm waking up now.
Who would benefit from reading Death You Gotta Love It?
The people who would, I think we all have some level of awareness of death. Anyone who is contemplating their death, or thinking about their death in any way or form, whether it's out of fear or curiosity, there's a whole sort of opening up of all the different aspects of it. So if you're looking to consider your death in any kind of way, or if you're afraid of your death, so it's 2 people really: those who are aware of their death and are wondering, you know, want to find out a little bit more about what it might be like. I mentioned, like, if you're going on a holiday, you'll inform yourself, you'll find out how to get to the place and the interesting things they are to do there. And for me, it should be the same with death. And this book is like almost like the guide, you know, what to, you know, what's that TripAdvisor, you know, 10 things
Right.
to do at death, or whatever it is. So, and also if you have a fear, but you don't want to have the fear, well, then this will help alleviate some of the fears, because you will learn more, and you will have a different understanding of death after reading Death You Gotta Love It.
Okay, where can people read Death You Gotta Love It, and how can people contact you?
Yeah, and the book is available to pre-order at the moment. It's not been published for another month or 2, but you can pre-order it on all the major booksellers, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and many more. So whatever your sorry, I've seen the post popping up. People can contact me through my website or my social media posts. So website is tonymchristie.com. So people Google me, but probably better known for Labyrinth. So if they not, there's a guy called Tony Christie who's a well-known singer over this side of the world. So he's looking for Amarillo in Texas, and he didn't even know where Amarillo was. I'm not sure if he does now or not. I think he was brought there as an honorary citizen of Amarillo or something, because he made it famous. So contact me through social media, Facebook, Instagram, my website, and drop me an email. You know, if you have any comments or thoughts or observations. I mean, this is a kind of a new departure for me. It's pushing out my boundaries a bit, and it took me a while to get comfortable with this, the whole idea of the concept of loving death, you know, but it's about loving life, really. So it's,
Carol says, thank you for sharing the information and beliefs tonight, Tony. I really appreciate and enjoy your insight.
Yeah. Thank you, Carol. Yeah, it was, I've actually enjoyed myself. So thank you, Russell, for the opportunity to share what little bit of, I don't know, wisdom, the right word, knowledge, maybe, to share my thoughts, you know. And again, you know, when you do read the book, please let me know what you think, even if you don't like it or agree with it, disagree with it. I know I can't please all of the people all of the time, you know, so it's nice to get feedback one way or the other. Yeah.
And you're going to be at an event in October in Connecticut.
Yes, I'm a lifetime member of the Labyrinth Society. It's mainly UK based, and they have an annual gathering every year. So I've been in many different places all over the States down through the years. I haven't been for a while. And they've invited me as a keynote speaker this year in Litchfield, Connecticut, I think the 9th, 10th, 11th of October. So if you're in the area, check it out or come and say hello. Yeah.
Barbara says, great show, Tony. So very interesting and informative. Much gratitude.
Yeah. Thank you, Barbara. And thanks for being here, and thanks for listening. And
So we'll definitely get you back on. We got to definitely do a part 2 to this.
Okay, yeah. Well, I've lots more information and lots more interesting stuff. I have brought in a lot of information from
Right.
what people might call an ET life. You know, that's really something else.
And a lot of it ties into our paranormal research too.
Yes, yeah.
What you
And I
talk
find
about.
everything that I'm receiving, or not even receiving, I'm accessing it. It's to benefit me in this life and others in this life. You know,
Right.
so whatever mission I'm on or whatever experiences I choose to have, this is part of it. So thank you again, Russell. I couldn't do it. We probably decided, Russell, before we came in that we were going to have this chat here and
Yep.
1st of May in 2026, you know?
Yep. So I'm going to put you backstage for a minute and close the show out, and I'll be with you in just a minute.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for coming on the show tonight, and we'll definitely do a part 2. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. We will be on Sunday night. My dad and I, Carol Garcia, and Rebecca will be on talking about various paranormal topics again this Sunday. Everybody, be sure to come see us next weekend at Mortuary Manor. Get your last-minute tickets. Go to Eventbrite and look up Eclipse Paranormal and get your tickets, get your VIP tickets, come investigate with myself and my dad. And we'll see you Sunday night, same time, same channel. Remember, if you're being bullied in the paranormal field, you do have a voice. Nobody's better than anybody in this field. We're off to the same common goal to prove the existence of life after death. So with that being said, we will see you Sunday night, same time, same channel. And remember, there will not be a podcast next weekend because we will be gone in Ohio. We may be on Sunday. It depends on what time we get back if we're not too tired. So that being said, everybody have a good night. Stay safe out there. God bless. If you're investigating this weekend, safe travels. And stay safe out there. Don't let the boogeyman get you. And we will see you Sunday night. Same time, same channel. Have a good night, everyone. Stay safe.